Hi, it's Milani Douglas again from the National Museum of Women in the Arts. And once again, we are here for another episode of the Curative Collective. The Curative Collective are awesome people in our community that are doing things at the intersection of food, art, and social justice. Today, we are talking to Marianne Lombardi, and she's going to be telling us about Care for Creatives. And we are wanting to hear about the services that they offer. And then we'll also get a chance to talk about the Reclamation Project as well. If you all don't know, Reclamation is a project we're collecting an archive of remedies, recipes, and rituals. And we are looking at how these different remedies, recipes, and rituals connect us all and connecting to what's happening into our community. Hi, Marianne, how are you today?
I am so good, and I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you. I've been looking for an opportunity for us to be on the same space at the same time. We've had a chance to be familiar with each other's work. So this is really, really great. I am so excited that you all are willing to be a part of the Curative Collective because we are excited about the work that you're doing, and we serve artists, and so do you. So can you tell us more about Care for Creatives and what you all do?
Yeah, absolutely. So Care for Creatives is a program that we launched probably around March or April. It is a partnership with George Washington University and their counseling center there. And it provides pay-what-you-can support for any creative entrepreneur, small business owner, anybody who might need it in the DMV.
That's fantastic. So when you say the services you provide and pay what you can, give me an example of what can someone go to Care for Creatives and what kind of services are they able to sign up for?
Yeah, so it's therapy, right? So it provides counseling services with a brief therapy approach that is kind of in the cognitive behavioral space, right? So helping create solutions and find skills and build skills to help people and manage the concerns that they may have. But really, all you have to do is just reach out to folks and reach out to the counseling center, and they will pair you with a counselor, and you guys can work through the challenges that you may have, and they can help you get where you want to go.
Wow, that's fantastic. And so in this time period, I know that a lot of people are experiencing a wide range of needs, right? And so when it comes to being able to have mental health, I've noticed, and even talking to friends, it's kind of hard to find, someone that you could actually talk to and work through some of your issues. So when you talk about the pairing piece, how can you tell us a little bit about the process, about how you're able to match with someone?
Yeah, sure. So we here at the Creative Affairs Office don't do the matching, but we let the experts do that through the counseling center. And so they have a process where once you reach out, that there's an interview process. You get on the phone with somebody, you talk about what your concerns are and what your needs are, and then they will, pair you with a counselor. The idea is that they want to find somebody that you gel with. They want to find somebody that you feel like you can talk to. And if for some reason it isn't working with the person you may first connect with, you can always find somebody else within that structure as well. But I think you're right. Sometimes there's two things. It can be challenging to even find a therapist, and then it can also be challenging to find a therapist that you connect with. So I think that is a process that takes some time, and it's like developing any relationship with anybody. You need to find somebody you feel safe and comfortable with.
And this is such an important service because for some people, even if they have health insurance, a lot of times the therapy is not always fully covered, or they have to work with someone in network, but they haven't found someone that gels, but they don't make enough to be able to afford, to add the additional $100 to $300 per session. If a person does have employment, but they can't afford additional services. Maybe they can pay a little something. Do you have to be just an independent consultant? Can you be employed? Does that even matter?
Well, it doesn't for our purposes, right? It is a pay what you can process. So as far as I know, nobody is checking to make sure that you are either employed or unemployed. I'm sure that they are asking you those questions, but the idea is that this is something that meets you where you are, right? It's meant to meet you where you are. And I think, to your point, part of the challenge for folks seeking help can be the fact that the cost is prohibitive, right? Like, it can be a really expensive proposition. And there are opportunities for decreasing that cost. There are other pay what you can opportunities. There's also some of the online options, which are a little cheaper, but therapy is expensive. And that's unfortunate, right? And granted, I'm not an expert in how all of the mental health like finances go, right? How they set up all of that things. But I do think that we're excited that we have an opportunity to help connect folks with the help that they need at ideally a cost that they can cover.
So I would love to know, Marianne, because you work for the city, correct? So you're working in city government, right?
Yeah.
And so I love these kind of programs where you're having these partnerships. Tell us how this came together. How did this even come to be?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been working with creatives and entrepreneurs, my pretty much my entire adult life, and mental health is always something that comes up. But I had always felt in the work that we were doing, I wasn't exactly sure what our role is there, right? Because I'm not a mental health professional, and certainly we are really good at connecting people and building community, but there's a piece of expertise that is missing on that mental health side. Well, I was talking with some colleagues and some friends of mine who work at GW and run their counseling program over there. And we were just chatting about what was going on with the pandemic and how our communities were dealing with that. And one of the things that came out of that conversation was, I was saying, we've got a lot of people who need help. My colleague over at GW is saying, hey, we've been seeing a lot of students, but now that the students are gone, they don't have clients to see. And we're both sitting there going, now, wait a second. I got a ton of people who need to see somebody, and you've got counselors who need to be seeing patients. And out of that became this opportunity where we said, well, why don't we connect those two dots? And in general, I think that's how good partnerships happen, right? Like, they need to happen first because you know people, right? Because you're talking to people outside of your network, you're talking to anybody you can, you're listening incredibly well. And you can recognize where there are two problems that can be solved by the connection between these two people, and for us, that's what happened. We were both really listening to each other going, now, wait a second, maybe we should just combine the efforts and the needs that we have and really connect these two things up. So I do think it was a really great example of how partnerships can happen out of a need that both sides have. We really have to be able to help each other when we're developing partnerships. Often people think too much about one-sided partnerships. They're not really thinking about, like, the ideal partnership is we're both helping each other solve a problem.
Yeah, I love when there are these dots that need to be connected, finding creative ways to do this. And this is a phenomenal example because it, just like a government office that you all have, and just like a museum, you're not always in the position to offer the service, but you can connect some dots, right? And
yeah,
so we're talking about with our project, it's related to remedies, recipes, rituals, and it's talking about food. But we know that studies are showing more and more that there's so many ties to mental health, the food that you're eating, who you're eating it with, having the company around you, having someone to talk to, these things that happen around food. And so when I found out that you guys were doing this project for creatives, I was like, these are two dots that can be connected, right? Because this is an opportunity to say yes, also while you're around the table, and we're entering the holiday season. We just had a holiday over the past week. This is a perfect time to say, hey, is everybody okay? Well, here are some services. Have you checked in this option for, if you need some therapy, you have some family members that are artists, that are creatives, and they may need this. And then also, hope when we have our database together, we're asking and hoping that people will submit not only just food recipes, but I know there's probably a tea, there's probably some other things that get people relaxed or help them with their mental stress. And actually, we had someone submitted an interesting recipe about just their own practice, which I thought was fantastic. It was like, not necessarily what they made with the herbs, but just how they use the herbs to like fill their home to smell good and things like that.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and I think it's so great that you're doing this project because, it's all connected, right? Like, and how we treat our bodies and what we consume and how we connect to people, and all of that feeds who we are, right? Like, and we are actually doing a conversation around food and mental health that's going to be coming up at the beginning of next year. We've started a conversation series around mental health as well, so that we can really start to dig into some of these issues, like what is trauma. One of our first conversations was about trauma. We've done a conversation on mental health equity. We've done one on managing the holidays, which is, you can find all that stuff on our website now. But we are doing one about food because it is such a powerful force. Not only just the nutrients, but the experiences that we have around food and our relationship with food. So it's very powerful.
So when is this conversation about food and mental health? When are you going to do it?
It'll be dropped at the beginning of next year. We'll be recording it sometime
Awesome.
soon, and then it'll be dropped at the beginning of New Year.
Okay, so if someone wants to sign up like for a mailing list, or is it best that they follow you on social media? What's the best way for them to be in touch with you or to know more about your project?
Yeah, well, we'd be thrilled if you do both of those things. So we just launched our social media, so we're excited to start sharing everything that we're doing with a brand new office here for the District of Columbia. So please do follow us at Creative Affairs DC on Instagram. Yeah. And you can also go to our website and sign up for a mailing list as well. And on that website, you can also find more information about how to access this program, Care for Creatives, as well as see at least the first 3 videos that we have dropped on mental health issues.
And when you had the videos before, were they set up like a Zoom conversation? Like how did the conversation happen?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it first comes from the topics, right? Like when we've been asking a lot of the creatives that we know and people who we've connected with about what are some of the conversations that they would like to hear. What are some of the questions that they have? And so a lot of the conversations have come out of that. But they are actually webinars. We record them and then we, add a little pop and fizz, and then we release them that way.
That is fantastic. Because one thing I have noticed is that during this time period, people actually have time to be able to sometimes they can eke out a little extra time to listen to a webinar like that and share it with friends or have that together. So the webinars you have so far, we know they're on the website. Which ones tell us about those that have happened so far?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first one we did was on trauma. And, we were trying to do conversations on subjects that we haven't really seen before and really get comfortable using words like therapy, using words like mental health, using words like trauma, because these are all very real for all of us. And even if you may not feel like you have experienced trauma, I guarantee you know somebody who has, so we really wanted to make some of those words and some of that language very comfortable and say the word therapy, right? Like a lot of times we talk about self-care and we talk about taking care of ourselves, but sometimes we need to say the words therapy, right? Like I'm going to therapy, and it helps to demystify what that thing is. So we've done one on understanding trauma. We've done one on mental health equity, which is really all about like accessing, mental health support, some of the challenges, how to really find a good therapist. How do you know a therapist really understands some of the needs that you may have? So that one's really great. And then the holiday one was fantastic as well. It's like, how do we approach the holidays? They can be really hard. And especially this year, it's a challenging year, for a variety of reasons. It could be a year of a lot of firsts for people, and so we just want to make sure that folks have some skills to other things to think about as they approach the holidays.
I love that approach because it puts people on the same wavelength about what we're talking about and what you're saying. Because sometimes when people say, a lot of times people say, I need to talk to someone, right?
Yeah.
And that's such a wide range of who you can talk to. And then sometimes you have to just acknowledge like that maybe you want to talk to someone who is trained to listen to you, who does not have, a nickel in it. They're not, coming with these different attachments to what your results are. And sometimes you just need something outside of your whole entire life, this person that you can talk to and get some advice and maybe work through some of the things that you're dealing with. But I love that because sometimes people don't, they say therapy, but it's not always like, okay, so let's say clearly what it is and what we're talking about. They say trauma, but not always clearly what it is and what they're talking about. What has been the most rewarding part of this process for you as far as creating this project and also connecting people with this project?
Yeah, just the feedback, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you know, our job, and quite honestly, personally, what makes this work is that for me is like, if we're not helping people, I don't know what we're here for, right? And that is our primary purpose, is to help people. And so I think the most valuable part of this process has been for the people who have been comfortable to reach out and say, hey, I participated in the program and this is what I was able to accomplish, and I really thank you for that. You know, that has been the most rewarding part of it, is to get that feedback. And I understand that some of it will be hard to get because it's confidential, right? You know, and so we don't know who's using it. We may know how many people may participate over time, you know, when we start collecting that data, but we don't really know who is using it. So it's been really rewarding to have people reach back out and say, you know, thank you for providing this opportunity. So at the end of the day, we just want to make sure that we're helping folks.
Yeah, that's awesome. Our creative community in DC is so amazing. We have a phenomenal, rich community here who is constantly being of service. A lot of creatives in this community are not only working in their own art practice or their own creative process, they're a lot of times serving in community, also working in the city government, working in museums. They're working in other spaces. And so what I love most about this project is serving a community that is usually heavily in service to other people and in ways that's not always recognized. So I do hope that people who are listening do get a chance to look up Care for Creatives and look at their website and make sure that you tune in to see what their services are. And if not for you, please pass on to someone else that may be in your network. And then also, if in those conversations, if you have a recipe, remedy, or ritual, or something that you feel you want to share, please be a part of our exhibition. And you can go to reclamation.nemwa.org and be able to find out how you can submit your recipe, remedy, ritual, or memory. We're also asking people to give us memories around food and healing that are a part of their family as well. So find a way to participate with us, and also find a way to spread word about this service. And Marianne, is there anything else that you would want us to know before you go? Did we cover it all?
Yeah, I think we covered all of this right now, but the only thing I would say is just if you have any thoughts about topics, if your community has any thoughts of topics they'd like to hear, I would love to hear from folks. When in doubt, we just want to hear how people are doing, right? And if they have any suggestions of things we could talk about or ways to make our programs or services better, we just want to hear from you. So when in doubt, reach out and say hi, and let's get in a conversation.
Well, I am sure that people will. And Marianne, thank you so much. I'm glad that we got this chance to connect this way. And I know we will continue to work together and connect on some things. So thank you. And everyone have a wonderful day, and tune into these services and be a part of this exhibition. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.